The following is a morning lecture on the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th Canto, Chapter 6, Verse 24, by His Divine Grace, Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Gurudev, recorded in Suva, Fiji, September 2nd, 1981.
Therefore, Sarveshu, to all, Bhuteshu, living entities, Dayam, mercy, Kuruta, show, Saudidam, friendliness, Bhavam, the attitude, Ashuram, of the demons, who separate friends and enemies, Unmuchya, giving up, Yaya, by which, Tushyati, is satisfied, Adhokshajaha, the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the perception of the senses. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, my dear young friends, born of demons, please act in such a way that the Supreme Lord, who is beyond the conception of material knowledge, will be satisfied. Give up your demoniac nature and act without enmity or duality. Show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service, thus becoming their well-wishers. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 18:55, Bhaktya mam abhijnati yavan yaschasmi tatvataha. One can understand the Supreme Personality as He is only by devotional service. Prahlad Maharaj ultimately instructed his class friends, the sons of demons, to accept the process of devotional service by preaching the science of Krishna consciousness to everyone. Preaching is the best service to the Lord. The Lord will immediately be extremely satisfied with one who engages in this service of preaching Krishna consciousness. This is confirmed by the Lord Himself in the Bhagavad Gita 18:69. Nacha tasman manusyeshu kaschin me priya kritamaha. There is no servant in this world more dear to me than he, nor will there ever be one more dear. If one sincerely tries his best to spread Krishna consciousness by preaching the glories of the Lord and His supremacy, even if he is imperfectly educated, he becomes the dearmost servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is bhakti. As one performs this service for humanity without discrimination between friends and enemies, the Lord becomes satisfied and the mission of one's life is fulfilled. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore advised everyone to become Guru devotee and preach Krishna consciousness. Yade deke tade kaha Krishna upadesh. That is the easiest way to realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By such preaching, the preacher becomes satisfied, and those to whom he preaches are also satisfied. This is the process of bringing peace and tranquility to the entire world. Bhaktaram yagna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam gyatva mam shanti richate. One is expected to understand these three formulas of knowledge concerning the Supreme Lord: that He is the Supreme Enjoyer, that He is the proprietor of everything, and that He is the best well-wisher and friend of everyone. A preacher should personally understand these truths and preach them to everyone. Then there will be peace and tranquility all over the world. The word Sauridam, friendliness, is very significant in this verse. People are generally ignorant of Krishna consciousness, and therefore, to become their best well-wisher, one should teach them about Krishna consciousness without discrimination. Since the Supreme Lord, Vishnu, is situated in the core of everyone's heart, everybody is a temple of Vishnu. One should not misuse this understanding as an excuse for such words as Dardra Narayan. If Narayan lives in the house of a Dardra, a poor man, this does not mean that Narayan becomes poor. He lives everywhere, in the houses of the poor and those of the rich. But in all circumstances, he remains Narayan. To think that he becomes either poor or rich is a material calculation. He is always Sat Aishvarya Purna, full in 6 opulences, in all circumstances. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta, Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pacharane, Nirvishesha Shunnavadi, Paskata Deshatarane. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Jaya Daitya Gadadhara, Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, here we find Prahlad Maharaj is advising his friends that they should not feel any enmity towards anyone. Instead of seeing on the material platform, they should see on the spiritual platform. Vidya Vinaya Shampane Brahmani Gavani Hastane Sune Chayeva Sapakicha Pandita Samadarshana. Pandit, a real Pandit, is one who sees with equal vision a Brahmin, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. Generally, people are making friends and enemies in this world based upon this bodily conception of life. Especially, people are very affectionate towards their family members, and they tend to be very exclusive. They give preference to their family, or perhaps their community, or in an extended way, they may give preference to their nation. But all of these are simply extensions of the bodily conception of life. A genuinely advanced soul, he finds all living entities to be dear, because he sees them in connection with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because Krishna claims everyone as his child, therefore we may see all living entities as our brothers. In this way, a devotee does not want to harm any living entity. And once one becomes Krishna conscious, he would even be hesitant to do harm or to kill even an ant. Just like Migrari, the hunter, after associating with Narad Muni and becoming a devotee, when he wanted to offer obeisances to Narada Muni, there were some ants on the path, and because it would have caused them harm, he first of all pushed aside all of the ants, and then he offered his obeisances. So a devotee is so kind that even he will not do harm to an ant. This is an example of Krishna's equanimity. Because Krishna says, Samoham sarva bhuteshu, name dvesho nistriyaha. Krishna says that he is neither a friend or enemy to anyone. He was equally disposed to all living entities. So because our Lord Krishna is like this, we must also learn this. And the best way to learn this is through chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, because this chanting of Hare Krishna will cleanse away all kinds of misidentifications. once one chants in a regular way the Hare Krishna mantra, he identifies himself as the eternal servant of Krishna. And as such, he no longer finds the bodily conception to be his real identity. He sees himself as a pure spirit soul. So this chanting of Hare Krishna mantra will lift us up to the spiritual platform. And it is on this spiritual platform that we can actually do good for others as well as for ourselves. So long as we are on the material platform of this bodily identification, we can only benefit others as well as ourselves in a material way. If we want to actually help, and that means in a permanent way help, because temporary help is not so good. Temporary help may be temporarily beneficial, just like blowing air on a boil may give some temporary relief. But actually it is when the boil is drained that you get permanent relief. So in the same way, unless you can actually lift someone up to the spiritual platform and help him to avoid taking another birth again in this material world, how have you given permanent benefit? If you try to do some good for someone, it will only be temporary, because if that person has to take another birth and is in just as much ignorance in his next birth or in her next birth, then how have you given any real benefit? Therefore, we should realize that the best welfare work that we can do for everyone is to make them Krishna conscious. Unless we can actually work to make someone Krishna conscious, we have wasted our time. Just to give some temporary material pleasure to our father, our mother, our children, our relatives, our family, your friends, or anyone, that is really doing a disservice. According to Isha Upanishad, if you do not help someone to become Krishna conscious, then you're actually hurting them. In fact, the Isha Upanishad goes as far as to call you Atmahana, or killer of the soul. One who does not help a soul to become enlightened is actually killing that soul, harming that soul. So this way we can calculate that practically the whole world are killing each other, because they are helping each other to go deeper and deeper into ignorance. Except for the devotees of this Krishna conscious movement, who is actually taking away the covering of Maya? No one. As we explained last night to the people at that mandir, these so-called Brahmins and Pundits are not at all Brahmins and Pundits, because they are cheating and the people they cheat want to be cheated. So we have to create a class of Brahmins here in Fiji, because without Brahminical culture, it is animalistic society. Brahminical culture means that there will be human civilization. Just as with the body, the head is most important to give direction how the body should work. So there is requirement now in the social body of the society at large in Fiji that there should be some head, some direction, some guidance, some persons who know what is to be done and what is not to be done. And this service should be performed by this International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Therefore, all of the devotees of ISKCON should first of all learn very carefully what are the rules, what are the regulations, what are all of the different scriptural injunctions, what are the instructions of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya. And after learning these, they should put them to practice in their own lives. Because example is more important than precept. Even if you may speak nicely, just like many of these Pandits and Brahmins, they may know some shlokas. They may chant some mantras. But their example in their own personal life is as fallen as the next man. And therefore, they cannot purify anyone. Unless you are pure yourself, your association cannot uplift others. Just like we find in the Western countries, there are many scholars who have studied the subject matter of the Gita. Even there are some scholars who have made big theses on the subject of Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami, and the teachings of the six Goswamis. They're so learned. And yet, although they teach courses in this subject matter, they have not been able to produce even one devotee of Krishna, which is the actual goal, the actual purpose of Rupa Goswami's writings, Sanatana Goswami's writings, is to make people Krishna conscious. So these scholars who are teaching the six Goswamis' books, because they are themselves not following these instructions, all of their students are simply in ignorance. Their students cannot actually realize the import of these important teachings. So most important of all is that you have to begin to practice Krishna consciousness yourself. And the more strictly you practice it, the more you will become empowered to preach. Because preaching means to give Krishna. And if you want to give Krishna to someone, you have to have Krishna to give. You cannot give what you do not have. But Krishna will not allow you to have him unless you are pure. Krishna is the exclusive possession of pure devotees. Krishna is not the possession of mixed devotional service. In the beginning, when you come to Krishna consciousness, there are different people who approach Krishna, but their motive is not always pure. But by associating with pure devotees, all that is impure can be cleansed out of the heart. Nastara prayeshu abhadreshu nitam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati utamashloki bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By associating and serving the pure devotees, as well as hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, all that is impure will be cleansed out of the heart, and devotional service will be established as an irrevocable fact. So once you get the association of a pure devotee, you should not misuse it. That means that you should inquire from a pure devotee about what is the goal of life. And when your doubts and questions are completely erased, then you should take up devotional service with full enthusiasm. No hesitancy. You should inquire from a pure devotee how you can advance, and after being instructed with full faith, you should take his instructions to heart and practice them very carefully. Now, if you do this, then yasya prasada bhagavat prasado yasya prasada nakatir katopi. By the mercy of the spiritual master, you will get the blessings of Krishna. And when Krishna blesses you, when Krishna is pleased with your activities, your life is perfect. Now here in this sloka, we get the easiest way for pleasing Krishna, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, Nachatasman manusyeshu kaschid me priya kritamaha. The Lord is most pleased. There is no servant more dear to him than one who preaches the message of Krishna consciousness. There's nothing that pleases Krishna more than to see you going out to the fallen conditioned souls and extending to them the knowledge which you have had. Everyone is meant to be a guru devotee. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has ordered Amar Yare Deki Tarika Krishna Upadesh. Amar Agai Guru Har Tare Desh Yare Deki Tarika Krishna Upadesh. By my order, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, by his order, you become a guru, and wherever you go, whoever you meet, speak to them the message of Krishna. That means message of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not very difficult. You don't have to concoct something new. You simply have to try to repeat without any adulteration what you have heard from your spiritual master. This is called Guru Parampara. It is not that we want to make some new statement, just like the Munis. Munis, their idea is to always come up with something new. They're always agitating their mind. And whoever can come up with something original, he is considered the best. But we are not trying for that. Our business is how correctly, how perfectly, exactly we can repeat the message which we have heard from our spiritual master. Just like the ripened fruit of the mango tree is passed down from one person to another until it reaches the ground. So our business is to pass down the message which has come from Krishna. And if we are pure via medias, then there will be no less an effect from hearing Gita from our lips as there was when Arjuna heard the Bhagavad Gita from Krishna's lips. Just as when Arjuna heard Krishna speaking Gita and his whole decision was changed, he decided to give his life for working for Krishna. Anyone who comes into contact with a devotee who is in parampara and repeating the message in parampara purity, that person's life will change. That is the proof that you have heard properly. When you have heard properly, then you will speak properly. When you have heard properly, then you will want to preach to others. And by preaching, your hearing will have become perfect. Simply to hear and not to preach means only half the job is done. You will not realize perfectly. Unless you try to explain this knowledge to others, you will not properly understand this knowledge. The teaching process is twofold. First of all, you have to hear perfectly, and then you have to speak perfectly. And only when you have repeated what you have heard, that is the proof that you have understood. Simply to hear, you may forget. But when you have to again bring forth this knowledge, this requires proper realization. Because in preaching, you're going to meet so many opposing elements. In preaching, you're going to find people are not agreeable to what you speak. Therefore, you will have to be able to convince them. But convincing means that you'll have to have realization, because each time it's going to be slightly different. So how you will explain it, that you will have to depend upon Guru and Krishna. That you will have to depend upon for your knowledge of this from your spiritual master in Krishna, how to explain it. But if you make this effort, if you go and distribute this knowledge, then you will become very, very dear to Krishna. And who should we distribute this to? Everyone. It is mentioned that the Panchatattva, the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they made no distinction who they gave this knowledge to. So similarly, we don't make a distinction that Krishna is only meant for Indians. Sometimes people think like that. Krishna is an Indian god. But Krishna is not Indian god. Krishna is the god of everyone. He is as much the Lord of the people, the Fijians, as he is of the Indians. So we should not think that, this Krishna conscious movement will only be taken up by Indian people. Actually, it will be taken up by the Fijian people just as much. Only thing is, nobody is making an effort to give it to them, because you're making distinction on this bodily platform. Indian people are my friends. Fijian people, they may be not understanding in the same way. You are making a discrimination on the bodily platform only. But the Krishna consciousness movement is meant to spread to every town and every village. All people of the world are meant to take the Krishna consciousness, because there is only one God, and we know who that God is. We know that that supreme God is Krishna. No other so-called religious group has any information about who God is. They do not know clearly who God is. They worship God or they sing about God, but who God is, what does he look like, what is he doing, this information is only available in the Hare Krishna movement. And without this knowledge, what is the question of loving God? How can you love what you cannot see? How can you love what you don't know anything about? Simply saying God is great, God is the creator, God is all merciful. But who is that God? Only this knowledge can be given by the Krishna consciousness movement. So we have to work in so many ways to teach people about God, Krishna. We have to teach them by giving them pictures of Krishna, by giving them books about Krishna, by giving them the prasad of Krishna, by worshipping the deity so they can come and see Krishna and bow down before Krishna. So much has to be done to spread Krishna consciousness. And the devotees, we have so much to do that there's too much to do even in 24 hours. We should feel that 24 hours is not enough time each day for serving Krishna. If there is gap in our devotional service, empty hours, that means there's some defect in the way we are serving Krishna. Because really there's too much to do and too few people to do it. So let us dedicate our lives to work cooperatively. Unless we work cooperatively, there's no question of spreading the Krishna consciousness movement. We cannot afford to fight with each other. We cannot afford to tell people, you get out. Because there is so much to do and so few of us. We need all the help we can get. Therefore, devotees should try to be very kind to each other, very helpful to each other, very encouraging, very forgiving, so that all of us can work together. Because we need everyone to make this fight successful. We cannot afford, when we have so few people, to lose even one man or one woman. That will be too much of a loss. So whenever you see your god brother or god sister having trouble, you preach to them. Do not allow them to fall to the hands of Maya. Maya is very strong. Maya will try to keep you here within this material world because she's a servant of Krishna. She has been instructed by Krishna to test everyone, to see whether you are ready for going back to home, back to Godhead. Therefore, Maya is business. She's been asked to do this by Krishna, and she's been empowered by Krishna to do this. So try to understand how powerful Maya is. Devi hi esha guna mayi. Mama Maya dhiratyaya. Very difficult to overcome Maya. But mameva ye prapadyante Maya metam tarandite. If you depend fully on your guru and on Krishna, then Maya becomes very easy to cross over. It becomes very easy. So the business of God brothers and God sisters should be to help each other, to depend more and to remember more the instructions of the spiritual master in Krishna. This should be our relationship with each other. Not that if we see our God brother, God sister in Maya, we think, oh, ha, 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 now I'm more advanced. You see, I'm more advanced. I will let my God brother, God sister fall to Maya's hands so that I can be the best devotee. This is a very neophyte condition. If anyone has this type of mentality, you should understand that you're not very advanced at all. In fact, one day Maya will catch you. Because this type of pride is not at all appreciated by Krishna. One who serves the devotees, that means one who helps the devotees to advance in spiritual life, is most dear of all to Krishna. There's no better service you can do than to help your God brothers and God sisters to become more advanced in spiritual life. Even though they may not appreciate it always, you should do everything you can to help them advance in Krishna consciousness. So, as it is stated by Prahlad Maharaj, show mercy to all living entities by enlightening them in devotional service and thus become their well-wishers. Are there any questions? Hare Krishna. Questions? Pancharam? None.
I'll come up with something like this. All day in there because they don't want to do any work, very many outside. They just want to go in there to come away from the work and not work. And they work in the sense of the material work that we go to. And the devotees are here because they don't want to do any work. And they don't see this as work.
So, is a teacher in a normal school, is a teacher performing useful service? Would they say? The teacher is not doing any so-called work. The teacher is instructed, right? Just like you're a teacher. You have to use your example. You say, I don't have a shop. I'm not a business person. I'm teaching. So they're also teaching. So why do you say that their teaching is less important than what I'm teaching? In fact, it's more important, because what I'm teaching can only help you for a few years, but their teaching can give you eternal life. Why do you say a teacher is not performing important work? Do you mean to say that unless someone works hard, like an animal, like a beast of burden, that's the only type of work there is? Some people's work is intellectual work, teaching. And there are different types of teaching. Not only material teaching, also spiritual instruction. So they're giving that kind of teaching. Actually, we should understand that they're performing the most important work of all. And it's not easy. If you think that it is easy, tell them, then you can try and just live the way they're living. It's not that they're living very luxuriously. They sleep on the floor, they live in an ashram, they only eat once a day. It's not that they only have a few possessions. So, first of all, they're doing very important work. All day, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, they go out and they preach and teach people. And as far as what they personally take for their own needs, they have minimized very much. Actual thing is that you have forgotten how to recognize the value of a saintly person. In other words, the world is now in such a material consciousness that unless someone is working very hard for their selfish purposes of earning money personally for themselves, they think that someone is doing nothing and wasting their time. But formerly, such persons were considered the best of all human beings, and their association was considered to be most important and valuable in human life. That's why the Brahmins are given so much respect. Unfortunately, in Fiji, there is no real qualified Brahmins. Therefore, people have lost respect for the Brahmin society. But without Brahmins, it is like a body without a head. That means that the only way these people will respect someone is if they're working hard like a beast of burden. The head doesn't work like the feet work, but we don't say that the head is not working. The head is thinking, the head is giving guidance, instruction. That is just as important. Of course, just to further preach to them, we will also gradually, we want to develop a Hare Krishna village. And in that village, we will show all the different types of work. Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. We will do all types of work. Some people will be teaching, some people will be preaching, some people will be administrating, some people will be doing Krishna conscious businesses and protection of the cows and cultivation of the crops, and some people will be doing physical labor. We will show all of these so that people can see how devotees are not lazy at all. They're working just as hard as anyone else, but instead of simply working for their own sense gratification, they're working to make the world a better place. They're working to sacrifice in their life to help others. Give them answers like this. That should convince them. By reading these books carefully, you will get all good answers. Every day, you should put aside some time for studying the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Especially Prabhupada's. Don't read other Gitas. Read this one because the purports are unique and special. They're really the true meaning of the Gita brought out. So if you read every day from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, you will get the ammunition, the information by which to counter these different questions. Because as you become Krishna conscious, people will challenge you. No doubt, they're going to challenge you. So you have to be able to satisfy their questions properly. Ours is not simply some sentimental movement. We have got solid philosophy, and we have to know that philosophy and be able to convince others of it. These other groups mostly are just sentiment. Therefore people have lost, especially young people, they don't respect these groups anymore. This is the age of science. So people want to hear logical explanations. And we have got that. There's one verse that is in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. If anyone is logical and reasonable, then they should simply apply their logic and reason to the teachings of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they will become completely satisfied. Because there is no one who is more merciful than Lord Chaitanya. And people should apply their logic and reason to see what is the benefit which Lord Chaitanya has brought to this world. There is no greater benefit. No one has brought a greater gift to the human society than Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, please apply your logic and reason to study this gift, this unique gift which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is offering, and see if it is not the best of all offerings. There's a verse like this in the Chaitanya Chaitamrita. Another question? Kumar? Question? Suma? Anybody have any questions? All right. So, what will be the program today? Damodar?
So, I'm going downtown early and putting up some more posters and inviting more people.
What will all the devotees, is it going to be that 2, 4, 6, or 8 women going to cook today
They
again?
should come downtown today and do Sankirtan downtown and invite people in the streets today to come to the civic center.
Then who will do that? Vishnu Priya will go out and preach. Chandra will preach. Suma will preach. These 3. And who else? Kanta will preach. 4. And which men will go out and preach this morning? Kumar will go out. Chaitanya Chandra will go out. Nandakishore will go with Parsaram. So he will stay here till 11, then go out. That means, will everybody come back at, again? Then that means the rest of the day is finished. We saw that yesterday. What happened?
It's best that the devotees come back around 3 o'clock and then take prasad and we'll rest and then go.
No, best thing is that the devotees take a little prasadam before going out. Is that possible? All right. And then they go out throughout the day and then come back by about 4 o'clock, 4:30, not 5 o'clock. Take some prasadam, get bathed, and then go for the evening program. So we'll make that program today. So everybody has got a clear idea, and then you have work here and other things, and also you may go out and preach. So everybody got a clear idea now of what you're going to do.
Anandrigar has to help take the devotees downtown because my vehicle's pretty loaded with things. I don't get to take a few devotees with me.
Yeah, you'll take the devotees down. Now, what kind of preaching are they going to do when they go downtown?
Well, we're allowed to do book distribution on the streets, so they should take some books and some book bags and just stop people and invite everyone they can. And anyone who can take a book, they should also try to sell books while they're doing it.
Is that a good idea, Vishnu Priya? That works.
It's good. And also we can go store to store and invite some of the shop owners we know and people.
All right, so everybody will do that. Yes?
I think
What? What did you say?
Well, we have, Bhagavati was
Hey, don't count on that. I told you already. Did you ask?
Vishnu Priya knows the person also.
You said that yesterday. Why hasn't she called the person?
She has to call around 9 o'clock.
Anyway.
So
So,
we did it, but I wanted to do it again, and maybe she could say something else this afternoon.
all right, Vishnu Priya, go ahead, do that. All right? Make sure that they do more announcements. All right. Now we will have Prabhupada's Guru Puja.